Welcome to the Truro and Colchester Chamber of Commerce Business Voice podcast. In the coming days, we will be hosting discussions with candidates from all three ridings in Colchester County to learn about their perspectives on issues presented through the lens of business. The Chamber represents more than 450 businesses in the Truro and Colchester region and has been the recognized voice of business for 131 years. Normally, when an election is called, we would welcome candidates to debates and town hall sessions. But this year, due to COVID-19 and public health restrictions, we have chosen to err on the side of caution and host one-on-one discussions with our candidates. Our members have had an opportunity to submit questions in advance on topics of importance to them. This series of podcasts for the 41st Provincial General Election are brought to you by the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors. Today, we'd like to welcome Shaun, Trainor, the Green Party candidate for the riding of Truro-Bible Hill-Millbrook-Salmon River. Thank you so much for joining us, Shaun. Let's start with you telling us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, thank you for inviting me and for putting these on. I think it's so important that we hear everybody's opinions and everybody's voices. My name is Shaun Trainor. I'm from this area. I grew up here. I went to school here and I worked here. My parents own businesses here in this community. So for me, growing up, conversation has often been around business and concerns, the hopes at the dinner table and not at the dinner table. It's just unavoidable at all times when you live with people who own business. Yeah, and then I went away to study, and I've come back because I feel it's time for some change. It's time for some bold action to address the crises that we're in. Housing crisis, economic crisis, climate crisis, and I think these are all connected, and that the business community really needs to be a part of this conversation and can help drive our way out of these crises.
Great. Well, Shaun, we poll our members regularly on an ongoing basis so that we have a sense from them on what some of the important issues are that are impacting their ability to grow and thrive in the Truro-Colchester region. So let's start with this one. Many of our businesses across every sector are experiencing a lack of human resources to fill vacant job positions, and it ranges from skilled to unskilled labor. What is your party's plan to address this critical need to fill these employment vacancies?
Yeah, so there are a few things that we want to bring in, starting with free education for people so that they're more likely to even stay here in the province already and have those skills and the knowledge. And then also a small business loan program that is administered by community members instead of it being somewhere else with people who may not understand what is needed in this specific community. We think communities should be the ones in charge of this because they best know instead of centralizing everything, as well as boosting apprenticeship programs and restoring trades and other skill-based curricula into our school system. That's really been lost. It wasn't really there when I was in school, and it definitely is needed. I would have loved to have been able to take some of those courses and to have some of those skills that I do not have. But we also want to ensure that there's a Just Transition Act in place. So as we move forward addressing climate change and other issues such as the pandemic, many people have been left behind, or their job is no more, or their skills have maybe become less of what is needed, but is still there. So many from, especially the fossil fuel industry, there have many skills that we need in the renewable energy sector. And we want to ensure that there's the financial support and training for them to continue so that we leave nobody behind.
Great. And speaking of, the community and different things that are needed to help grow our local economy, we know physician recruitment is directly tied to economic growth. And this region is having issues with having enough family physicians available for our population. It has been a challenge for our businesses to recruit and retain new employees coming in with the lack of access to family physicians. So what is your party's plan to address this?
Yeah, well, I am one of the 71,000 people without a family physician. Mine retired in December, and he was the physician for myself all the way through to my 90-year-old grandparents. So we're definitely seeing that in my own family. And we want to increase admissions to medicine in Nova Scotia. It's very limited how many people can get into that program, but also increase admissions for nurse practitioners and ensure that they can get jobs when they come out of their program. Because right now, I was talking to one the other day, there are 15 in her class, but in this region, 4 are guaranteed a job. So many of them have decided, well, I'm going to go elsewhere because there will be work. And so if we can keep them here, they can help alleviate some of the pressure off the physicians that we have so that they can take on more patients. But we also think that we need a holistic approach to health. We only have one body, but yet everything is separate when it comes to healthcare. Mental health is there, physical health, and we think we should have medical centers that can have nurse practitioners, dietitians, psychologists, general practitioners all in the same space so that you can get the care you need and again alleviate some of that pressure. But also yesterday I was talking to a friend of mine whose kids have gone away and studied medicine and now they want to come back but they're unable because of the red tape that's keeping them. But they studied in the UK and in the States. They should easily be able to move back to Truro and the surrounding community if they want to be physicians.
Thank you for that answer. Another major concern for business is taxes. We know Nova Scotia has some of the highest taxes in the country. And, adding to that is the cost of COVID. We know that it was necessary to spend money to invest in helping move through the pandemic. But as the relief measures are wound down, how will this debt be repaid?
Yeah, so one of the ways that we want to really look at that is more supports for our local businesses and less so for those corporations that are not even in this country that are taking those tax dollars away from this, where we should really be investing those in the businesses that are here, that are employing people here and paying those taxes here. And that includes large corporations that are fossil fuel based, and we think that they no longer need the subsidies that they have. We need to use that money instead to support our local businesses, such as through the loan program that would be administered through the community.
So you had touched early on about housing being tied to the economy. The purchase and rental housing supplies here are near a historic low in Nova Scotia in this region. We're experiencing about a 1% vacancy rate in the Truro area, which is extraordinarily low. How will your party increase the supply to ensure that there's a healthy housing mix that includes the entire spectrum from community housing, rental, and home ownership?
Yeah, well, again, this is one I know personally, and it's one I hear every day at doorsteps is around housing. Housing and healthcare are two of people's top priorities in this riding. And the party wants to ensure that we have an independent provincial housing entity, as the Commission recommended, that would ensure that there is that aspect, that they can create their own housing and have that for people. But we also want to work with municipalities and non-profits to create more public housing, non-profit housing, and cooperative housing, because we feel that municipalities and the surrounding communities have a much better idea of what is needed. And right now it's the province that decides what is needed. And really we need that consensus building and those partnerships to create that housing. We also want to bring in rent control and other programs to help ensure that when we have new housing, that it takes into fact people's employment, their recreation, and their leisure, as well as their transportation, because we can have housing, but if it's not easy for you to get employment in that area, or like your employment is not near where you're working, well, then you have that added cost of transportation, and we need to consider all of those things when we are building new housing.
Right. Well, thank you for that well thought through answer. The current procurement process by government makes it challenging for small business to compete. How will your party look at the current procurement process with the lens on increasing opportunities for Nova Scotia businesses of all sizes?
The Green Party is committed to more local procurement and looking to local first before looking elsewhere. If we're not supporting our local businesses, we're not truly supporting our local economy. And again, that's also where this loan program could come in. But we very much feel that we need to be committed to our local businesses.
Wonderful. The current red tape and high costs of acquiring permits and the process for granting permission to export products to outside markets in Nova Scotia is preventing some local manufacturers and producers from reaching new markets. How will your party simplify the process for out-of-province exports and improve cooperation between the provinces?
Well, the Green Party is fully committed to cooperation. It is one of our key tenets, is that we work across party lines, but also provincial lines. This can be seen in PEI, where the Greens are the official opposition and are working closely with their counterparts in the PC party, who is the current government, to cut red tape and to make life better for Nova Scotians and their PEI as well. So we want to do that. We want to work across the party lines here in Nova Scotia and then work across provincial lines to cut that red tape. There's no reason that it should be easier to export to the US than to New Brunswick, Quebec, PEI. It's ridiculous, and we need to end that.
So supporting a reduction in greenhouse gases and implementing environmentally friendly practices is really necessary to build a healthy future. What supports to assist in greening business will your party bring forward?
Well, as many will know, the Green Party is the most committed to addressing greenhouse gas reductions. We have the strongest platform on that, and we will never not be strong in this area. We will never compromise on this ideal. And so we want to develop complete communities, ones that have active transport and public transit, so that those businesses can have their employees come in that sort of way. But we also, again, the small business loan program, and we want to put 5% of the budget towards green initiatives, including for businesses, having benefits for them programs for them to put in place greener technologies such as solar. There's the solar program in Colchester for people's homes, and we want to have that for businesses throughout Nova Scotia, but also retrofits to make businesses more energy efficient. And the Green Party is committed to creating 15,000 new jobs a year until 2030, and then reassessing within the green job economy. And that is, many consider that just renewables, but their green jobs are in healthcare, in caretaking. There is many green jobs. It's much broader than just renewable energies, but also the Just Transition Act. This would help employers give the skills and financial support to their employees to get that training, to enable the business to transition. I spoke to one individual the other day whose business is in fossil fuels, and he acknowledged, my company used to be coal, we've moved to gas, and I told him, I want to give you the support to then become a renewable energy. It's just that transition through time into what is the energy source of the day.
So I'm sure that you have noticed, as you're driving around and doing some home visits on the campaign trail, that certainly there's no doubt that there's a greater investment that needs to be done to fix our roads and bridges, particularly in our rural areas. What is your party's plan to ensure that trade-enabling infrastructure improvements are done to support the movement of supplies and services from businesses, as well as growth in our tourism sector?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the Green Party we want to work with municipalities on roads and infrastructure. Again, they know best what is needed in their area, and we want to work with the other provinces to better connect the Maritimes, especially through one way that we feel that trade can come is having a better public transit system and a better rail system that connects all of the maritime provinces. And so right now we have not had rail for people, and goods is also tied up with, because it comes from the rest of the country. We need one here, and that's something that we want to work on to better move our goods between the maritime provinces. But we also want to support them to have high-speed internet, because that is now a way that everyone is doing business, is via the internet. And so we, again, need to have those roads, but we also need to have the internet speeds. Because, I mean, I live in Salmon River, so I know it's already bad there. let alone in even more rural communities.
That's a great segue into the last question we have here, Shaun. So the lack of access to high-speed internet and cell coverage continues to plague Nova Scotia, and in particular, our area is suffering from a lack of coverage. We understand that there are projects underway to provide greater access to internet. However, cell service is still necessary to grow business, and we know that there's more that needs to be done in that area. So what is your party's plan to address these gaps?
Well, firstly, we want to start seeing high-speed internet and cell coverage as critical infrastructure, something that we have to have, because we do in this day and age. Like roads, waterworks, we need to have these coverage with internet. It's something that is currently not seen as critical infrastructure, but it is. And we need to work with the municipalities and the companies to ensure that everyone in Nova Scotia has high-speed internet. Other places have done it. We can do it here as well, and we should. There's no reason. And we also need to bring down the costs, because right now it is astronomical and nobody should have to pay these costs, especially to do business.
Thank you so much for taking time to answer our questions today, Shaun, and sharing your perspectives with our business community. In closing, is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners today?
Well, I want to thank you for, again, inviting me, and thank you for everybody who is listening, and thank you to everybody who has a business in this community and has continued to provide us with the services that we need each and every day throughout COVID and continuing on. It's definitely been a difficult year. I've seen that with my own parents' businesses and those of friends and family elsewhere. I think that we need to work together across party lines, across communities, across provinces, and that's something that I'm committed to. The Green Party is very committed to consensus building and ensuring that all Nova Scotians' voices are heard, and that's what I want to work towards, and some bold action to make sure that our communities can truly grow and flourish as we come out of COVID.
Great. Thank you very much. The Chamber would like to thank all the candidates who made time in their busy schedules to come in and discuss important business issues with our Chamber, to bring these to our members in this format. We'd also like to give a huge thank you to our sponsor, the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors, who made these podcasts possible. We encourage everyone to get out and have your voice heard by voting in the election.